Ella Purnell, I know you hadn't played Fallout the game before Fallout the show, but I want to know, what video games did you play growing up?
I actually did play the video game before
Mm.
the show. I mean, I played it for prep. I
Yes.
wasn't, I'm not really
You
much
weren't
of a
you weren't a fan before it came into the project came into
no,
your life.
I wouldn't consider myself a gamer. I've tried. I've tried and failed many, many times. But I did, when I found out I got it, I did play. And I like it. I get frustrated because I'm just not very good at it.
Hmm.
I had a Nintendo when I was younger. I was like really definitely very addicted to. And I
Same.
would play, I liked the games like Sims and Hotel Tycoon, is it called, or something like that? I
Mhm.
like the ones where you get to build things. I had one where I also built a hotel, and I put a moat in my hotel.
Ooh.
Where like, I was great. The hotel did really well because of my moat.
Yeah, because I mean, people need to pay to cross the moat. So,
Yeah, and
yeah, exactly.
security measures were unbelievable. People were impressed. It was like Vegas.
Yeah. Well, I talked to John Papsadera recently, and we both agreed that Lucy is a difficult character to cast and play because she's just so good and moral and perpetually optimistic. And it in the wrong hands, she can come off really annoying, but in the right hands, yours, she was still, such a great and warm protagonist, and we really feel for her as she goes on this journey in the wasteland. So how what like was that a concern for you, and like how did you approach the role once you got it?
It's a good question. I think that it was a concern for me in the sense that it was always in the back of my mind. I was always very aware that that was a possibility. I think also as a woman, as a young woman who has grown up in this industry and has, received, I've read a lot of different scripts throughout my entire life. I've witnessed the transformation of the kinds of scripts I get sent from 8 years old to 28 years old, and how those change. There's this preconditioned female needs that to be liked, and it's something that I think all women have to reckon with at some point in their life, and especially then you try to translate that into acting, and you're trying to play these characters that are commercially accepted and loved and liked, and of course there's a part of you that wants to, I suppose, cater to that commercial appeal. You want to make a character that's watchable, but watchable doesn't always mean likable, I think. And so I learned on Yellow Jackets, actually, not to concern myself too much with the likability of the character, because whenever I try to predict if someone's going to like my character or not, I always get it really wrong. And so it was in the back of my mind. I was worried, but it didn't affect my performance. I didn't try to play her in a not annoying way. Do you know what I mean? Because I think had I tried to do that, she probably would have come across really annoying. I'd like to pretend that I knew what I was doing, and this was like a very, calculated performance. It wasn't. I really just sort of trusted the writers and trusted that they would do something amazing, and they really did. And I think they're so talented, and I'm just very, very lucky that I had such amazing directors and writers around me to help guide me.
Hmm. And we all love Jackie on Yellow Jackets and miss her.
That's the thing, is I was so concerned. It got to like episode, I think, 6 or 7. It was pre Jackie reading Shauna's journal. And I really was like, oh my God, Jackie is just, she's such a piece of work sometimes. Is anyone really going to care when she dies? Like, guys, what are you doing? I'm
And
really
now
stressed.
everyone's just like, we need Ghost Jackie, more Ghost Jackie.
And then people loved her. So I thought, you know what? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll just shut up and let the writers do their job.
Well, by the end of season one of Fallout, we learned the truth about Vault 33. But how much were you told beforehand, and just also just of Lucy's backstory, and how much did you create yourself? Like, what do you think? We know she just really embraces like her duty, and she wants to get married and have like a perfect family. But do you think she has any other aspirations besides that in the Vault?
I think that, Lucy is the overseer's daughter. She is essentially the president's daughter. And you know, she comes from a long, long line of vault dwellers who believe it is their duty to procreate. You know, it's all vault dwellers, regardless of gender. I wouldn't say that that idealism is rooted in sort of like traditional gender roles. I would say it's more so this sort of vault type propaganda of we
Mhm.
are going one day going to rebuild America. It's more sort of
It's the
uh,
Vault-Tec worldview.
yeah, it's more culty than that. It's actually more sort of like missionary than that. Anyway, I do think that you see moments with Lucy maybe doubting that in the first episode. It's something that me and Jonah talked about a lot, and it was really important to him and to me as well that we mapped in those moments of you know, little moments of fear and nerves before she gets married, and then certainly moments after she gets married. I mean, it's particularly in the intimate scene, where there's little moments of like, is this it? Is this really gonna be my life? You
Yeah.
know, it's like the goalposts keep moving. You think that you want something and you get all the way there and then you get it and you go, huh, it's not
It's like, is this it?
what I
Do I want
thought it would
more? Am
feel
I
like.
fulfilled? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. Well, once she gets out on the wasteland, obviously her positivity and optimism gets slowly chipped away. So how did you balance that as an actor, trying to track that, her being, a little bit more jaded, as the episodes progress, especially once she comes across the ghoul.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that's the fun part. That's the part that I really, you know, that really drew me to this role. And the part I really wanted to do was, um, you know, Lucy in episode one, she's very funny, she's very strong, she's very smart. But I wasn't, you know, I wasn't interested in playing this perfectly put together character for 8 episodes. I wanted to destroy her. I wanted to break it down and get to the very sort of limits of human desperation, you know, where you get to when you are forced to survive, you know, when that is taken away from you. I think that episode 3 and 4, Lucy is my favorite version, really, even though she's being, look, we can say it now, the show's out, she's being tortured, she's starving, she's thirsty, she's got one shoe, she's got radiation poisoning, she's being used as human bait in an irradiated river with a 15-foot salamander trying to eat her. You know, she's really fucking, sorry to swear, but she's really going through it. That I remember having a conversation with the writers going, but we're gonna like really like mess her up, right? Like I don't want to, you know, I want her to look really messed up. I want her to look like she's really going through it. And they were like, yeah, but we're still gonna make it like Hollywood. You know, she's like Hollywood suffering. Like she's like pretty, but she's suffering. And I'm like, no, she's not pretty. You look at her and you wince. Like you have to feel like,
Like,
oh
ew,
God,
like dirty,
how
gross.
far
Like
she's
you get it, you get
fallen.
into it. Yeah.
How far she's fallen from episode one. Um, yeah, I love that. And also that's the thing that I love about TV is you asked me how much I knew about Vault 33 and where it was going. I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing. I asked the writers and they wouldn't tell me. We know it's just I still can't get anything out of them. They're just, pardon the pun, they are like vaults. Um, one of the things I like about TV is just having to kind of guess where it's going to go. And then you get frustrated because for me, I'm like, oh, I could do my job so much better if I knew where it's going to go. But you know, that's not real life. We don't know the ending. We
Mhm.
don't even know our next moves.
And
We
you
don't
and
know.
you might even like overthink it maybe if you know too much, right? Like,
Exactly. Yeah. We don't know what in real life what the next step is. And if we were, we would probably mess it up and not even get there in the end.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
I guess the most truthful performance and the truthful version of acting is not knowing. So maybe in that way, TV is the closest to truth.
Hmm.
Way, I knew that the writers were going to write me something crazy, but I had no idea it was going to be as crazy as the finale.
Yeah. Well, in 3 and 4, that's when you have like the tussle with the ghoul. And well, how does it feel to be able to say I bit off Walton Goggins' finger?
Yeah, that was a crazy scene, huh? I love that scene. I love the grittiness of it, the danger, you know, the idea and I'm obsessed with this idea, and I love talking about this in my real life and thinking about this of like, you know, you think you know who you are. Everybody has this idea of who they are, this narrative, this sense of identity. And, you know, maybe it's partly true. Maybe it's partly completely fabricated. Maybe we live up to the idea of what our identity is. Maybe that is something that we feel like we have an innate sense of. However, when it comes to what would you do in the apocalypse? What would you do in an emergency situation, a survivalist situation? What do you do when someone breaks into your house in the middle of the night? I think I would fight them. That's
Mhm.
my toxic trait, thinking I would be a really great, I don't know, kung fu master. But the reality is I would freeze. You know, the reality is you have no idea who you are. The reality is if you're, you know, could you kill someone if you really had to, right? Those kinds of questions is what
Yeah, you always say you would be able to do it, but like, could you actually do
can
it?
you really? And with Lucy, would she ever have thought that she would cut off, bite off a man, a creature, a person's fingers? Of course not. But that's the kind of things that you do when you're desperate.
Yeah.
Um, and so I really loved that scene.
Well, I mean, speaking of freezing in the finale, Lucy gets a lot of information thrown at her. You know, her dad is not as noble as she thought. He burned down Shady Sands and tried to kill her mom, who's now a ghoul, right in front of her. And her
Yeah.
whole world is destabilized once again. And the look on your face, like you're just like completely paralyzed. And I feel like, you know, maybe like in another version of the show, like maybe like she would be crying or something, but you were just frozen there. So how did you approach that scene? And what was the script like? Were there like specific directions for Lucy?
Yeah, that scene was always tough. You know, you read it and you know you imagine it could go 100 different ways. Like you say, in another version, that would have been an incredibly emotional moment with a lot of
Like
crying
yelling,
or
cry,
whatever.
yeah.
And there
Mhm.
was crying, there were tears, but perhaps not in the way that we typically see. I think what was important to me and to Wayne, who directed the episode, and also to the writers, was that we see yet another side of Lucy that we have never seen before. Um, you know, to me, tears, uh, people react to things in different ways. Me personally, it takes me a long time to cry about something, actually. I don't cry very easily.
Me too.
Um,
Yeah.
crying to me seems like actually like accepting something. It's when it's almost the last step in processing your emotions. Whereas I think with Lucy, she has had to shut down a side of herself for so long in order to just get through to the end of this season. She has had to repress feelings. She has had to dig into places that she didn't even know she had. Um, and something happens when you go into that state of fight or flight and you go into that, it's literally a survival mode. It's literally your brain changing gears. You know, your amygdala has hijacked or your limbic system has hijacked your prefrontal cortex. You're in a state of survival and you're not feeling things or processing things in real time because you don't have the time because you're so focused on survival. And then crash, you know, in this episode, everything comes down around her and she receives all of this information, but it's not sinking in. It's not going in. And it, you know, we tried a few different versions of that ending, actually. We tried a very emotional version. We tried a version shouting. We tried a version crying. We tried a version. We actually reshot that ending over a separate week because it was so important to us that we got it right. And all of the bigger versions just didn't, it wasn't right, especially when you then take into account your role within the greater scheme of the episode. You know, you've got the explosions, you've got everything that's going on with the ghoul and Maximus and the Brotherhood and Moldave. You know, there's so much information for the audience to take in. And so it really came down to, you know, Lucy is an incredibly animated, optimistic person. What does it look like when that happiest, most optimistic, resilient person you know loses hope? Finally, after all that, there's the one thing that could possibly make her, you know, not believe that the world is a good place is finding out that her father, her anchor, um, is not a good person. That is the entire fabric of her being just ripped out from underneath her. And so I think that catatonic state, that numbness, I don't know who's to say if it was the right choice or not, but I think it was definitely a choice I was happy with when we were doing it. It felt like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this is the first real heavy, you know, earth-shattering,
It's
heartbreaking.
almost like she's like grieving the life she knew, like everything she's been told was a lie, like her life until now was a lie.
Oh yeah, it is 100% that. It's 100% that. It's deeper. It's her identity.
Hmm.
Her not even, it's not even like, oh, my values. It's her core being. It's Voltec. It's the overseer. It's the overseer's daughter. It's where she comes from. Everything she's ever been taught. All that propaganda that she spewed in episode 2. Everything. And there's nothing left. If that's her entire being, there's nothing left. I'm excited to see what is next for Lucy. How do you rebuild a person? How do you
Hmm.
rebuild a person? I don't know.
I also love the finale. There's like several like callbacks or like full circle moments because earlier she told the ghoul I'll never be you, and then she like shoots her mom. And also the way you say okie dokie this time in the finale is so much more devastating and resigned when you go off of the ghoul compared to in the pilot when you're just so optimistic when you're like here we go, we're gonna do this. So yeah, so what do you think her mindset is now? Like she's just off on this track with the ghoul for season 2.
That emotion is it's so accessible for me for some reason. Maybe because I don't know. It's sometimes harder to fake laugh than to fake cry. Sometimes it's harder to pull from happiness because it really does feel like a lightning in a bottle thing. That it's hard to get that muscle memory. But that okie dokie was like right there at the top of my throat. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but when something truly, 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 truly awful happens to you, a loss or just something just heartbreaking, devastating, and there is moments of the initial moments of being completely displaced, of just not. I remember for me, it's like I don't even know what to do with my arms. I don't even know I don't know how to be. I don't know how to exist. I don't know how to go. I don't know how to be. And then when you start to finally realize you have to move, you have to do something, you've got to do something. There is just this emptiness, this sort of despondent feeling of like, there is nothing left for me to do but put one foot in front of the other and just keep going. Even if I don't feel anything, even if I don't know how to work my limbs, you just get up and you just keep going. And it's heartbreaking. Actually, that's harder than the loss. Having to keep going, like that loss didn't just happen. Having to keep going like that didn't just happen to you. And so I wanted with this moment of okie dokie and especially the mercy kill that you're talking about with her mother, in that moment for her to hate that the girl was right, hate what she's turned
Yeah.
into. It's not so much of a choice that she's made rather than a corner she's been backed into, rather than I have nothing left.
Yeah,
I,
you could just feel it's like heavy for her, and it's like I gotta do this. Like
yeah.
there's no other
And
choice.
it is that it's a lack of choices. I have to, when I think the girl says, or you can go and meet your makers. You
Yeah,
can stay here and the Brotherhood will come and they'll kill you, or you can go and meet your makers. And what the hell are you going to choose? The choice is made for her. And she hates that he was right. She hates what she is. She hates what she's becoming. She hates that, um, that this is who the wasteland has turned her into.
hmm,
And in a way, she blames herself because she chose this. She chose to go and she chose to follow him, and she perhaps is feeling 1 million different
yeah,
emotions in that moment.
yeah, for sure. Well, lastly, obviously, like we said, we know and love you from Yellow Jackets. But on that show, you froze to death in the wilderness, and now you're in the irradiated wasteland. So why are you always in these dangerous places that start with a W?
Great question. I don't have a witty or a cool
You haven't been asked this one yet. I'm just
for
like,
that. God, I've been awake since God knows how long, and I don't know. Maybe the answer is because I like a challenge. I like a challenge, and it's it's interesting to me. It's fun. I don't want to do a period drama where I'm having tea with ladies. I want to be.
You can do that in real life.
I want to be messed up with a missing finger and radiation poisoning traipsing
Yeah.
around.
When else can you walk with a ghoul with no nose? So, like,
When else can I bite off Walton Goggins' finger? I mean,
exactly.
the
So,
hard-hitting questions.
I guess you can freeze to death in real life, so that's a little bit different, but yeah.
You could, not in the Canadian wilderness.
No, you'll probably be rescued a
Well, no,
little
you could
sooner.
in the Canadian wilderness,
Yeah, you could.
but
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, I wouldn't. I've learned from experience,
Yeah.
but others
Mhm.
good.
Well, Ella, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your
Nice to
time.
meet
And
you. Thank you.
congratulations on the show and good luck with season 2.
Thank you so much. See you soon. Have a good one.